And we are back with the the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, because we are a little bit low on time, I'm going to skim through every single preseason game that ended up happening over the weekend. So starting from Friday all the way over to Sunday. And again, it's going to be a quick skim just because we're low on time. Normally, I would dissect every single stat and every single important player on each team, but I'm not really going to do that unless it's like, a game that's like really big for the postseason and got a lot of attention. So I'm just going to skim through a lot of it, and it's going to be rather brief, I hope, just for the sake of time. So on Friday, October 11th, the Warriors ended up beating the Kings 109-106, a very close game for the Warriors. The Warriors are 3-0 in the preseason, and the Kings, they're 0-2 in the preseason. Moses Moody, he ended the game with 23 points, was the leading scorer for the Warriors. And for the Kings, the entire starting lineup was in double digits. De'Aaron Fox ended with 19 points. And of course, Stephen Curry, he played only 16 minutes, however, so obviously not going to play all that many minutes in this game. He didn't really shoot all that well, and that's going to be it, because that's basically like how fast I'm going to skim through a lot of these games. So pay attention real quick for any of you guys who are just casually listening. So the Wizards ended up beating the Raptors 113-95 on Friday again. And Kyle Kuzma was the leading scorer for the Wizards. Then the leading scorer for the Raptors was, of course, Scotty Barnes, in my opinion, one of the more underrated players in today's NBA. And a very useful player to acquire in fantasy for any of you guys who play that. And Pelicans and Magic game was postponed due to that crazy hurricane that's going on over in Florida. Timberwolves ended up playing the 76ers. They won 121-111. And Timberwolves, the leading scorer was Naz Reid. And for the 76ers, Paul George was the leading scorer for the 76ers with 23. Oh, my bad. Naz Reid for the Timberwolves ended up scoring 19 points. I apologize for that mistake. Pistons ended up beating the Phoenix Suns 109-91. And the leading scorer for the Pistons was Cade Cunningham. He ended the game with 25 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, almost a triple-double. Played 31 minutes for some reason in this preseason game, but I digress. And the Suns, Kevin Durant had 24 minutes, ended up scoring 18 points. I believe he scored all of these 18 points off of just one dribble. Not entirely sure, but I was watching a lot of the highlights, and I only saw him dribble once, which is very, very impressive. And he also ended up shooting 7 of 12 from the field. Obviously, Kevin Durant's very efficient from the field, especially in the mid-range area. One of the better mid-range scorers in this league. The Clippers ended up beating the Blazers 101-99. Derrick Jones Jr. ended up being the leading scorer for the Clippers with 16 points. Portland Trailblazers leading scorer was power forward Toumani Camara, who ended the game with 19 points and 9 rebounds as well in 31 minutes played. Now, that was all of the Friday games. Now we're going to move on to Saturday games. So the Spurs ended up matching up against the Utah Jazz. They ended up winning 126-120. And Jeremy Sochan ended up getting 15 points and acquiring 8 rebounds as well in this matchup. And hold on just one second. I want to try and find this. There was one player on Keldon Johnson. So I want to just point this out. Keldon Johnson from the bench scored 20 points. And there was at one point when he dunked the ball, he looked like a prime Westbrook. And I know a lot of you Westbrook fans are going to get mad at that. But let me explain myself. He wears number 0. He has a tapered fade. He has the arm sleeves. He did his signature tomahawk dunk. And he has the same charisma after Westbrook when he dunks. And I mean, that looked like, if you squint your eyes just a little bit, that looks like Russell Westbrook. But I just wanted to point that out just because I thought that was rather interesting. And then Colin Sexton for the Utah Jazz ended up scoring 24 points in this game, playing 31 minutes. Again, I feel like this team should be in a rebuilding state, but that is besides the point. Celtics ended up destroying the 76ers at home, 139-89. I mean, this is what happens when you're Boston. You always beat the 76ers. It's just a trend. It just happens. Jason Tatum ended with 16 points, 10 rebounds. Jaylen Brown ended with 18 points and 8 rebounds. They were both the leading scorers for the Boston Celtics. And Jared McCain, surprisingly, was the leading scorer for the 76ers in this matchup. Paul George and Joel Embiid did not end up playing in this game, and neither did Tyrese Maxey. So, I mean, great job for the 76ers in not trying to get their players injured. And then the last game for Saturday was the Grizzlies going up against the Chicago Bulls. Grizzlies ended up winning 124 to 121, and Jalen Wells ended up scoring 24 points for the Grizzlies in 32 minutes. And for Chicago, Zach LaVine ended up scoring 28 points in 22 minutes. A very highly efficient game from Zach LaVine. He went 6 for 6 from 3. And you would make, if this was a regular season game, this would increase his trade value, but of course it's not. So, blah. As you guys know, the Knicks ended up beating the Timberwolves 115 to 110. Not going to talk about that game all that much. The Warriors played the Pistons on Sunday. These games that I'm going over now happened yesterday. Warriors won again, 111 to 93, and the leading scorer for the Warriors was none other than Lindy Waters III, coming off the bench, 13 points in 19 minutes. And the Pistons, they did play Cade Cunningham, but he wasn't the leading scorer. It was actually Jaden Ivey, ended the game with 19 points, but Cade Cunningham was 1 point behind him with 18. And next game was the Miami Heat going up against the New Orleans Pelicans. The Heat ended up winning 101 to 99. Leading scorer for the Heat in this matchup was Tyler Hero as well as Duncan Robinson. They both ended with 12 points, and they both shot rather efficiently from the field as well for the Miami Heat. And the leading scorer for the Pelicans was Zion Williamson, who ended up getting 13 points in 17 minutes. And of everybody in the starting lineup, he ended up playing the least amount of minutes, but still ended up being the leading scorer. So there's a little bit of knowledge from any of you guys that wanted to know about that. The Trailblazers ended up beating the Sacramento Kings. Kings have yet to win a preseason game, which is a little bit concerning, but I do understand that they aren't using DeMar DeRozan. Actually, no, I lied. They did use DeMar DeRozan in this game, and he played 30 minutes for some reason. I'm very surprised that he played 30 minutes. Shot 4 for 10, ended with 8 points. Absolutely terrible. And Alex Len ended the game with 13 points, was the leading scorer for the Kings. But for Portland, the leading scorer was Scoot Henderson, who ended the game with 17 points. Celtics ended up beating the Toronto Raptors. What else is new? Lonnie Walker, the fourth, ended the game with 20 points, was the leading scorer for the... Actually, no. Drew Peterson was the leading scorer for the Boston Celtics with 23. And another honorable mention, Jordan Walsh ended the game with 16 points and 10 rebounds. Toronto Raptors, their leading scorer and arguably their best player was Jacob Poeltl in this matchup. He ended with 14 points and 13 rebounds. And yep, he was the leading scorer for the Raptors. And the final game over the weekend was the Suns going up against the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets have yet to win a preseason matchup. Kind of surprised at that. Jokic was in this game, played 30 minutes, ended with 21 points, 14 rebounds, and 9 assists. Still, they could not come up with the win, even with this amazing performance. Michael Porter Jr. ended the game with 21 points. And Jamal Murray, since he wasn't playing the Lakers, ended with 2 points, and he played 19 minutes. However, he did end up, let me see, what did he shot? He shot 1 for 6 from the field. So, yeah. Unless Jamal Murray's going up against the Lakers, he's really not going to be. He's not efficient, and I don't understand why. Diggs, by the way, 7 in the chat. Hey, what's up? Nothing much right now, just going over the preseason games. And to cap it all off, the Suns, the leading scorer for the Suns was Ryan Dunn, as well as Monte Morris. They both ended with 20 points. And those are all the preseason games that happened over the weekend. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the fifth segment where I talk about the WNBA Finals. I'll just briefly recap what went down over the weekend, how the series is playing out, as well as the plans for the WNBA going into the future. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.